Hello YouTube, how's it going? It's Professional here. Today we have another honest discussion video where I create a poll and you guys vote on a controversial topic. This honest discussion video is about passive mode in weaponized vehicles. Now, I am not against passive mode, but there is no doubt that there is a problem with people abusing it in weaponized vehicles. This happens when players typically get into a vehicle such as a Hydra jet or an oppressor, they follow another player around and then jump out of passive mode at the last second. The other player has no time to react, and they get blown up. It's extremely unfair, especially if that person is transporting cargo. In a poll that I created, I asked you guys if you should be allowed to use it in weaponized vehicles. About 30,000 people voted, and 79% said passive mode should not be allowed in weaponized vehicles, while 21% said it should be allowed. From reading most of the comments, people who want passive mode to stay in weaponized vehicles, their main argument is that they want to be able to use it to get around the map without having to be blown up. They do acknowledge that passive popping is a problem, and they don't necessarily want it for that. They want it for defensive purposes, not offensive purposes, so I can understand a little bit where they're coming from. The unfortunate thing is that too many people use passive mode for offensive purposes, not defensive in that case. But we're going to read the comments from both sides. We're going to try to propose some solutions. I have some ideas on how to fix this problem, make both parties happy. But before we do, I have a clip here. I want to show you guys this. This shows how much of a problem passive popping can be. Take a look at this. This clip right here is from my most recent video where I fought 3 Oppressor Mark II griefers. In short, these guys were going around with Oppressor Mark IIs. They were just blowing people up for no reason. I got up on the roof of this parking garage, to get a good vantage point, and I was using the Stromberg because the Stromberg has good missiles to counter the Oppressor Mark II. This right here, you're going to see a perfect example of passive popping and how much of a problem it is. This guy right here was trying to kill my friend FBI Michael. I fired a missile at him. He avoided my missiles by activating passive mode. I was like, okay, whatever. He went into passive mode. But it's what he does next that's the real problem. Take a look at this. He is following Michael around right here in passive mode. He gets as close as he can to Michael, and then at the last second, he deactivates passive mode. He's using it to gain an unfair advantage over him. This is not the way passive mode is meant to be used. And he blows him up. I waited till he gets out of passive mode, fire a missile at him, but of course, he activates easy way out. So this shows you how much of a problem passive popping can be. Passive popping is notorious in jets. I often see passive poppers using it in jets, but I have also seen it in other vehicles like the Oppressors. Here we have a perfect example of Rockstar logic. On one side, we have the Super Valido Carbon civilian helicopter. On the other side, we have a Hydra jet fighter. Now, which of these vehicles do you guys think you can't use passive mode in? That's right. It's the Super Valido Carbon. This helicopter has no weapons on it. The only thing this helicopter has is champagne. So apparently you can't use passive mode in this helicopter. But then if we go to the Hydra jet fighter, this jet has homing missiles and a deadly explosive cannon. And for some reason, you can use passive mode in this jet. It makes no sense to me. Why is it disabled in a helicopter like the Super Valido Carbon, but it's not disabled in a vehicle like the Hydra? And if we get out of passive mode right here, we can fire all of our guns, all of our weapons. So somebody can just get up behind somebody with this kind of jet, get out of passive mode, and then blow them up. Let's read some of the comments. Let's read comments from both sides and see what people are saying about this issue. Okay, so let's start reading some comments. And first, let's read a comment from somebody who thinks passive mode should be allowed in weaponized vehicles. Thank you for voting and commenting in my poll, Floza. And Floza here says, I myself recently purchased the Oppressor, and I love it. I'm a very non-violent and friendly player, but not many people seem to be like that in public sessions. I really just use my Oppressor around the map as I think it's pretty fun and easy to use. I think they should allow passive mode in weaponized vehicles because there are some people like me who just want to get around the map without being killed. They should, however, make some changes. For example, if you're in a weaponized vehicle in passive mode and go off passive, it should alert players on the bottom left of the screen above the map, or they could implement something where there is a 1 to 2 minute timer after going off passive mode until you can fire the weapons again. Thanks for reading. Well, those are some nice solutions, Floza, but I have an idea, and I think both parties can agree on this. The people that want passive mode to be removed from weaponized vehicles and the people that want passive mode to stay in weaponized vehicles. The solution could be that once you get into a weaponized vehicle and you activate passive mode, you cannot get out of passive mode unless you get out of that vehicle. That would stop passive popping, because if they have to land the jet and get out of the jet in order to get out of passive mode, they wouldn't be able to do that. Same for a lot of the Oppressors. They would have to land them and get off them, so people would stop going into passive mode to passive pop. They'd still probably go into passive mode just to get out of the area and get out of the fight. That's like that guy who dodged my missiles. But at least it would stop people from sneaking up on other people. Thank you for commenting, Floza. The next comment we have, somebody who thinks passive mode should not be allowed in weaponized vehicles. Thank you for commenting the Everything Show, and thank you for voting. The Everything Show says, I mean, if you can't carry weapons on foot in passive mode, why should you be able to use weaponized vehicles in passive mode? It just defeats the purpose of not being able to use the weapon wheel. P.S. I really like this poll thing you've been doing. Even if you don't get in the video, it's a good way to get your opinion to this community. Well, thank you, The Everything Show. And I mean, I agree with you. If you can't carry weapons on foot in passive mode, why should you be able to go into a weaponized vehicle? You know, why am I prevented from activating passive mode in the Super Valido Carbon, but I can activate passive mode in a weaponized vehicle like the Hydra? You know, it doesn't make much sense. Moving on, our next comment is from Half-Fire Fortress, who voted passive mode should be allowed in weaponized vehicles, and Half-Fire says, so I hate passive poppers as much as the next guy, but I still think passive mode should be a thing for multiple reasons. One, it actually allows you to get away from these griefers, and two, sometimes it's fun to just take a Kanjali or a Deluxo, and go on a 5-star rampage in passive. I do think the issue can be solved in multiple ways. Personally, I think of the 1 minute cooldown, maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and it increases if you use it often. Alternatively, maybe if you have a high mental state, you can't go into passive. You know, that is a good idea. You know, if you repeatedly killed a ton of people, you can't go into passive mode. It won't let you. Also, maybe every time you go into passive mode, it registers you going into passive mode. Let's say you go into passive mode right away and then get out of it. There's a 1 minute cooldown. You do it a second time, it's 5 minutes. You do it a third time, it's 10 minutes, and it increases with the more frequency that you use passive mode. That could also be a solution to stop passive popping. Good idea there, Half-Fire Fortress. Our next comment here is from Carolina Boy 0101. Thank you for voting, Carolina Boy 0101. He voted passive mode should not be allowed in weaponized vehicles, and he says the whole purpose of passive mode is to avoid fights, but people use it to get advantage in a fight. Also, how does it make sense that if you are trying to avoid the fight, you are using a weaponized vehicle? Passive mode shouldn't have been allowed in weaponized vehicles from the start. You bring up a good point there, you know. Why was passive mode allowed in weaponized vehicles from the start? Why didn't they tweak passive mode as they released these weaponized vehicles? Because, you know, they probably didn't think that people were going to abuse it to this extent. It's probably carelessness, because Rockstar didn't test a lot of these weaponized vehicles that they could possibly be abused with passive mode. The same goes to the orbital cannon. They released a very powerful weapon, overpowered weapon that can blow up anybody anywhere on the map, and they didn't test the cannon before releasing it to see that people could abuse it with a glitch and could fire it over and over again. So I think it was kind of carelessness that they didn't really add passive mode restrictions in these weaponized vehicles. But you do bring up a good point there, Carolina. Our next comment is from Jasper Edwards right here, and Jasper voted passive mode should be allowed in weaponized vehicles. Jasper says, yes, passive mode in weaponized is hardly a problem. You see him coming on your map. Off the radar and stealth mode, on the other hand. Well, Jasper, you know, I respectively disagree with you here, and I don't think that that's a good argument, because basically what you're doing is you're saying that Off the Radar and Ghost Organization are also problems, which they are, but you're saying that just because there's these problems in the game, passive popping is not a problem that we should worry about as well. You know, you see, you're saying this is a problem, so we shouldn't worry about this problem. It's not really a good argument to make. And to tell you the truth, I would rather get attacked by somebody using Off the Radar or Ghost Organization, because at least I know that they're coming, and I have some way to defend myself from that. But if somebody's passive popping, following me around in a weaponized vehicle, I have no idea when they are going to get at a passive one, and they could blow me up at any moment. So I'd rather get attacked by somebody Ghost Organization. I see where you're coming from, that Ghost Organization Off the Radar can be annoying when somebody abuses it, but, you know, it's not a good reason to say that these are problems, so then therefore passive popping is not a problem that we should worry about, because it is a problem. Imagine if you're flying a Titan, for instance, and you have no way to defend yourself. You're flying cargo, somebody goes up behind you in a jet in passive mode, and gets out of it at the last second and blows you up. Imagine how annoying that can be. And here's our last comment from DWLE, and DWLE voted passive mode should not be allowed in weaponized vehicles. DW says should not be allowed because I think the same way as you. They can sneak on people that is just making money, and that's why I don't play in public lobbies anymore. I play on PC and I sell stuff on solo public because I'm always afraid of this kind of people. I agree with you there, Ellie. You know, it's unfortunate people passive pop. They do things like this. They go after cargo, and it just makes it really, really unenjoyable and not even fair at all. When somebody passive pops, you have barely any time to react, no real way to counter it. So, I mean, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, drop a like. If you're new to my channel and you enjoy my content, subscribe. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care, everyone.